Hello and welcome back to the Sekimeiya Spun Glass. It's been a while since I last recorded. I don't know if you realized, you probably did, but I said at the beginning of episode 49, I believe, that I had been just sick and wasn't sure about, how long I could record and how long my voice held out. And I recorded for like 4 hours because there was just no good cutoff point. And it went fairly well. I just really realized in like the last episode, in episode 53, how my brain was just shutting down. Like I couldn't comprehend much anymore. I couldn't concentrate and think about possible answers anymore. So I just thought, okay, I have to end it soon. I did go back just before starting this recording and read through most of the last chapter, like not chapter 5, that would be insane, but most of like the last, I'm gonna say about since episode 51 or 52, the beginning of that. Something like that. I can actually show you, I believe, around like to up here, maybe. Yeah, around here, I think. That's where I started reading through it. I skimmed through parts of it because it's a lot. And even just through reading that quickly, I realized, okay, like there's just, it's a lot. And I think the whole idea that I proposed at some stage, where I said, okay, I might just have to sit down and write down what happened in each world, I don't think that's happening. It would take a few hours for me to do that, and I don't think the game will have more than a couple hours left, maybe 5-6 hours left or something like that at most. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I'll just have to try my best to work with what I've got. So yeah, let's continue. After Shiria and I reunited outside the security room, we went back to the attic, where we were told we'd been downstairs for 50 minutes. There, Sai's watch displayed the current time, but that was because he had seen it in the security room. We explained everything. Most importantly, the Sekimeiya had disappeared from the event room. That's why we went to the crystal floor. When we got there, Sai was already gone. We were fast enough to see him in front of the cleaning room where he'd hidden the Sekimeiya. I thought something then. Shiria was looking around while I questioned Sai's ambiguous action. If he'd hidden the Sekimeiya in that room, I wasn't sure why he'd left upon realizing that we'd seen him. He should have given up, but instead he'd gone off to hallway C. He likely wanted to travel through time, probably because he knew we were about to search the floor. However, even though we'd seen him, he still had another Sekimeiya hidden somewhere else. In fact, at that point he should have known where all 3 of them were, and he went toward hallway A. And out of nowhere, I teleported. Shiria saw the Sekimeiya's glow within the cleaning cart and made both of us appear in the attic. Okay. I know I said I read through it. I'm lacking context here. We traveled to the future or to the past? Honestly, I can't remember much. Did we travel to the future or to the past? I have to guess. Like it's not even, I don't even have anything to go off. What would I think? Let me say the future. At the time we thought we'd gone to the past. It's not what happened though. We recognized the locations. We'd been there half an hour before we traveled. That means that we went half an hour to the future. The staircase door is open, so this is past the time we unlocked the attic. There are a bunch of footprints next to the door, but I don't see ours. This must mean that we haven't gone down yet. These are probably the ones that we left after going back up, when we found Akro in the bathroom. We're not before that point since there are too many. That was a big misinterpretation. We were told what caused those footprints. It was the search that occurred after Isla went missing. The ones Shiria and I had left were long buried. They were all slightly faded too. That meant that there was no chance we just traveled a few seconds back, which led me to be pretty certain of the time. How is that possible though? We heard a sound coming from the bedroom where we'd been. Who the hell was that? Nobody should have been there, right? We hid ourselves thinking we were escaping the sight of our past selves. It appears that didn't actually occur. And in the second level of the opposite bedroom, both of us fell asleep. When we woke up, we had no idea how long we'd been there for. That's why the next time we were told the time, we thought we'd slept for a long time. In reality, the main reason a lot of time had passed was because we'd gone to the future. couldn't believe it. We'd really misunderstood so many things. When we woke up, we had no idea what had happened on the crystal floor. Tired and still uneasy about our non-existent past selves, we went to the living room. Did we leave it like this? We'd been used to looking at the footprints in front of the door, but that was no longer possible. The door was closed and the movement of it had erased every single footprint nearby, creating an empty arc. We must have. This means that the group already left, though. Even though the motion of the door had erased the nearby marks, there were many around the entire room. They were much fainter than the last time I'd seen them, but I was still able to recognize that new ones existed. The new footprints weren't from the time we'd walked to the crystal floor. Who did they belong to? That was simple to solve. The remaining few spots of that puzzle were all part of the same piece. When we came down, we saw that the cleaning cart had disappeared. What was strange was that the Sekimeiya was in one of the buckets that had been below it. But that wasn't the future Sekimeiya. It wasn't working. Why was the third Sekimeiya there? Had it also been in the cart when we traveled? Shiryu said something else had been there, but would the third Sekimeiya not have disappeared with the cart? And she said it had been something dark. I'm not sure, but I think I can guess what happened to the future Sekimeiya. The future Sekimeiya. Wait, so the future Sekimeiya, that's the one that Shiryu actually touched. So obviously when you touch a Sekimeiya to travel to the future or the past, you don't keep the Sekimeiya with you. It stays where it was. There was also the third Sekimeiya, the fake Sekimeiya there at the end that they saw in one of the buckets. They traveled to... Okay, Sai ran away. He hid one Sekimeiya there in the cleaning cart. Ran to Hawaii's sea, I think it was. Shiryu looked in the cleaning cart, touched the Sekimeiya after seeing something dark, disappeared into the future with Atsuki. Now Sai could have took it. I'm guessing there were some events that happened in that time frame that we were told about in one line somewhere that I don't remember. That would tell us exactly what happened to it. Sai would have had the opportunity to take it. Kate, maybe? I don't really know what he was doing. It teleported? I don't believe so. Why would it have? It was also there? Possible, but would you really miss that? I don't think you would you? Like, sure, you'd see the powered off Sekimeiya in there. Or, you know, powered off, the fake Sekimeiya, so it's not really powered off, it's just never powered on. I'm gonna say Sai took it. I do believe it was also there is a possibility. I don't think it's very likely. I do believe Kate took it could have happened because I can't refute it. I don't really know what he was doing around that time. I don't think it teleported. I don't really see why it would or how it would. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. When Shiryu used it, the future Sekimeiya must have remained in the cleaning room. But we only found the third Sekimeiya, which we decided to leave in Naomi's locker before going to the lobby. There, Sai explained what had happened while we'd been absent. He pointed out the fact that he'd been the first person to enter the cleaning room after our disappearance. Since we had followed him there, he knew it was possible we'd traveled. Sai, showing the strongest reaction, approached the room while letting out a conspicuous thinking sound. What is a conspicuous thinking sound? He opened the door and stayed still for some time. Then he entered the small space. Before the others had time to wonder what he was doing, he exited and told them that it was empty. The powder of Sekimeiya was there and he put it in his hip pack. That's why he had appeared with it in the past earlier. Okay, good. In the cleaning room, the others were distracted by the missing cart and Sai pointed out the third Sekimeiya in the bucket. I'm still having trouble understanding the cause behind some of these details though. Sai obtained the future Sekimeiya and put it in his hip pack, which is why he'd appeared with it in the past. However, he was only able to obtain it like that because he had appeared with it and had hidden it in the cleaning room. This seems to be an event with no origin, so perhaps it's an indication that something else happened on top of it. It was Sai who first questioned its status, as it somewhat contradicted a few things they'd concluded earlier. It was white instead of the grey colour they'd thought it would become after having teleported 2 people and a whole cleaning cart. Akro had seen us enter and never leave the cleaning room. They knew we had travelled through time. However, there was another disappearance. Kate's. The remaining people searched through every room on the crystal floor, but they didn't find us. When we were about to go up, Isla walked to room A5. That's when she fell into a cabinet and disappeared. I wonder what happened. The cabinet she looked into is one that can be seen from the stairs, where she and Erina were waiting. While Sai and Akro investigated the rooms, Sai must have quickly disposed of the future Sekimeiya. That makes me think that Isla saw that through the door's gap. What happened to her though? I don't really have any good idea. The situation around her death was very confusing, so I thought further ahead for the time being. When the others saw Isla had disappeared, they were unable to find the Sekimeiya in room A5's cabinet. It must have been powered off, and there was very little light. Since Sai knew the Sekimeiya was there, it wouldn't surprise me if he grabbed it immediately before the others saw it. I'm not sure about that though. Since Isla had disappeared, everyone thought she had to be somewhere in the building. That made them search through every floor, but nobody was found. Isla wasn't found, Kate wasn't found, Shirya and I weren't found. Of course we weren't found because we were in the process of traveling to the future. What about Kate though? Okay, it's a lot of answers. Let me eliminate some. I don't think that's going to be the case. Just purely based on, that would be a boring answer. The search wasn't optimal. Kate was in the storeroom's secret corridor. He knows about it. He could have been. Would he have been there, and why would he have been there? I do not think there is a good reason for him to have been there. Kate traveled to the future as well. It's a possibility. It's a possibility that I don't believe in. I'm tending towards one of the bottom 2 answers here. He was in another world, because we're kind of assuming here that he disappeared alongside Isla. And since Isla was also gone, her also having gone to another world alongside Kate is something that I could readily believe. Someone didn't reveal that they'd found Kate is a possibility. It's always a possibility, but I don't believe there is anyone that would do that. Kate is kind of a lone wolf. He's not really working together with anyone. Why would anyone hide his finding of Kate unless Kate was already dead and they found a corpse? Then maybe, but I don't believe so. So I'm gonna go with that. I don't think Kate could have been found either. Before we traveled to the future, we saw Sai in front of the cleaning room. I wasn't sure what Sai had been about to do, but we'd seen him standing in front of the door. Shirya and I entered while Kate continued toward hallway C in pursuit of him. When we traveled to the future, Kate was actually very close to us. We went half an hour forward, so I'm sure the range picked him up. Okay, so it was actually Kate traveling with Atsuki and Shirya. Okay, makes sense. Half an hour earlier, he, Shirya and I had been in the attic, so that's where we appeared in the future. Ah, Kate had been in the rightmost bedroom, so that mystery is also solved then. He suddenly teleported there and left the room disoriented. He's who we heard approaching the door when we were in the hallway, and he's who left the newer footprints in the living room. Okay. After failing to find anyone, Erina, Akro and Sai gave up and moved back to the lobby. There was only silence for a long time until they heard a sound from hallway A. It was Kate. He had walked down after appearing in the bedroom, and Shirya and I were about to fall asleep. Where did you go? We searched for you. Sai shot the first question, and an immediate answer came. And an immediate answer came that left the three of them unsatisfied. I don't know. I think I experienced what Atsuki said, teleportation. I've been searching for you. Then they looked into the cabinet where Isla had disappeared. She was there, already dead. The Sekimeiya, though, was still nowhere to be found. After they waited in the lobby again, Shiri and I appeared. We told them they hadn't found us because we'd been sleeping in the attic. Understand that what you've told us is that you two spent all the time in the attic sleeping. Despite this, you weren't found. You didn't find Kate either, so you obviously didn't do a great job. And you were in a rush, so you kept yelling Isla's name while quickly looking. I bet you didn't look at the upper levels of the bedrooms, which is where we were, and since we were asleep, we didn't hear you. This only made sense from our point of view, but Sai never denied it. Why? There's no way he really didn't look at the upper levels, is there? Perhaps that was the first indication he had that traveling to the future was possible, and he consciously chose not to let us know. Since he should have been in hallway C when Kate disappeared, I wonder if he turned around and realized what had happened to him too. In any case, when we went to see Isla with our own eyes, there was a major distinction. The Sekimeiya was there, emitting a faint glow. What the hell happened? That Sekimeiya was working and we had hidden the third one in Naomi's locker. How did that one appear back in the cabinet? I don't get it. I don't know what happened to Isla. Is there a whole other factor that I'm missing about this? Did something else occur that I don't know about? Isla disappeared from the cabinet, but how? Did she go to the future? The future Sekimeiya should have been powered off since we had just used it. Then, even if that happened, did she reappear in that same cabinet where she'd gone to look? Why though? She wasn't there in the past, was she? And why did she die? Right, she yelled before falling in. What the hell does that mean? Did she go to the past? Or Sai had kept walking toward hallway A. Perhaps he put the future Sekimeiya where he had the past one for whatever reason. Since the future one should have been powered off, Isla would have actually traveled back in time and not changed worlds. I can't know if the search took long enough for it to power back on though. But that still doesn't make sense, does it? If she saw herself, what happened to her other body? Why the hell was it even there? And if both Sekimeiya were active, she should have changed worlds. Also, I know Sai could only put one in his hip pack, so the other would have been seen. Most importantly, later, Sekimeiya reappeared in the cabinet. Did someone do this? Or was it all an accident that didn't involve a murder? I mean, now the question with Isla was killed is the question with the phrasing of that. Normally, killing someone includes having them die on purpose but not actually physically being involved in it. So what could have happened is that someone else could have set something up with the Sekimeiyas or whatever that ended up with Isla dying, but they weren't actually involved in like physically killing her. So something like, I don't know, specifically manipulating the Sekimeiya in a way that Isla would somehow get teleported in a closed cabinet and die of not starvation, of oxygen deprivation is, I guess, the cause of death, but there's an easier word for that, right? My English, please work with me here. What is wrong with me? It's not. Okay, I'll think of it later. I think it's probably more likely she suffered an accidental death. I don't know exactly how, but I feel like that is more likely. So I'm gonna go with it. It's possible someone killed her, but who? Yeah, exactly. Who would have had a motive to do that? Who could have done that? And, I mean, to be fair, what was Sai's motive in killing everyone else? Or Akuro? Well, Akuro... No, he still hadn't had a motive to kill anyone. So no one really had much of a motive. Sai's crazy, I guess. There was a whole search and the future Sekimeiya had just been used. It's possible a killer with an elaborate plan carried this out, but that seems very out of place. I don't believe she was killed. Her cause of death was one of the strangest details. It's tough, isn't it? What happened to Isla? Under the right circumstances, touching the Sekimeiya ended her life. It wasn't an instant result, however. The complexity of what occurred might be a bit more involved than what you're imagining, as no world switches factored in. The cabinet, both Sekimeiya, everyone's actions, everything contributed to allow Isla's tragic demise. Suffocated! That's the word. This riddle will be left all to you, but know something. When Isla looked in the cabinet for the first time, she saw the body of a young girl. It was her own, but that was far from her interpretation. I'm assuming she assumed that was her friend, who had somehow entered the tower and died inside the cabinet. Yep, inside the cabinet she saw the image of her friend. Her mind and body both teetered on the edge, and she screamed as she toppled into that sarcophagus of a cabinet. I would believe it has something to do with suffocation inside the cabinet. I don't know why or how, but that's going to be my guess. If she wasn't killed though, I don't know what could have happened. There are too many aspects that I don't get. It was frustrating. I'd had the information to solve everything so far, but I was lost when it came to Isla's death. I wish I could know what happened to her. She died right there and she never revived. The Isla in the future wasn't the same person. I looked at the voice recorder. The minutes had been ticking along, so I felt slightly rushed. I hated having to move on, but her death seemed to be surrounded by too many questions for me to solve. Afterward, we simply stayed in the lobby. It didn't look like any of us had the strength to stand again, but that changed when Kate and Sai left out of the blue. Wait, actually, 1 second, let me quickly go back to it. Because the game, or the narrator, specifically said that body was her own. And her friend is just Isla from another world. So, wait, is it Isla from another world? Or, yeah, it is Isla from another world. We know she traveled back in time. Wait. No. She didn't travel. Did she travel? No, she didn't travel to another world, did she? She traveled with Acro back in time to sometime in November. But wait. I've forgotten. If traveling to another world automatically means you don't travel to the past or the future. I think so, but I don't fully remember it. Because if it automatically excludes the time aspect of it, then Isla didn't actually travel to another world there. She traveled to the past, so she essentially duplicated herself, I suppose. So her friend isn't her from another world, but it's just her past self, her future self, sorry. Now I'm confused. Okay. But the game, the narrator clearly said it's her own body, so it's not someone from another world. What would that mean? Can dead people travel through time? Technically, I would assume they count as objects. But that would also mean that once someone is dead, they would have to be in possession, like someone would have to be in possession of their corpse to travel. So I would assume, if I go back to the suffocation, that Isla Isla in the future traveled wait. No. Isla in the past traveled to the future, and her location was replicated to be inside the cabinet because a few hours or a few minutes, whatever, after Isla traveled to the future, she fell inside the cabinet. That's why she appeared in the cabinet when she traveled to the future. But at that point, the cabinet was closed and she suffocated inside of it. That's what I'm going with. I don't know if that travel to the future is supported in the past. If there's any stage in the game where it would tell us that she traveled to... Wait. No, that doesn't... I was thinking about the time when Atsuki, Shirya, and Kate traveled, but that doesn't line up time-wise. Because Isla disappeared then, didn't she? I think I'm onto something here. But I don't think I can fully get the whole picture together. But I like my idea, so I'm gonna leave it at that. And I'm probably gonna dream about it sometime tonight. Alright. Where was I? I think I'll start from the beginning. Afterward, we simply stayed in the lobby. It didn't look like any of us had the strength to stand again, but that changed when Kate and Sai left out of the blue. Both of them said they went to the bathroom, but it's clear that's not what happened. When I thought about it, I realized I could draw a solid conclusion. The Sekimeiya that appeared next to Isla's dead body was working. The Sekimeiya that appeared next to her... Past or the future Sekimeiya? I don't think this Sekimeiya in particular has anything to... Well... If someone put it there afterwards, I have no idea which one it is. If I assume that Isla had both Sekimeiya, or at least Isla had one Sekimeiya that was powered off at the time where, in my theory, she transported herself to the future, it would have had to have been the past Sekimeiya. I don't think that's what the game is going for, because it would work as a theory based off of something that the game specifically told me Atsuki doesn't know. I will still go with it because it's the only logical answer I can come up with. Anything else would just be guesswork. So I'm going with the past Sekimeiya. I think it was the past Sekimeiya. That's because I put it in the Sekimeiya cabinet, and when we locked ourselves in the attic, it was still there. We were told that when Sai and Akuro escaped, Akuro forced Sai to tell him where he'd hidden one of the Sekimeiya. Then he touched it and appeared in January, meaning that the one in the event room was the past Sekimeiya. Wait. So Atsuki put this past Sekimeiya in the Sekimeiya cabinet. Then they locked themselves in the attic, it was still there. We were told that when Sai and Akuro escaped, Akuro forced Sai to tell him where he'd hidden one of the Sekimeiya. Okay, so the one Sai had hidden was the future Sekimeiya. The event room was the past. Yes, I get that. And there's something strange about this. If I'm right, Sai must have hidden the future Sekimeiya immediately after Isla's disappearance. This means that when Akuro touched it, it had already gathered energy for a ridiculously long time. A lot more than what I believe he needed to travel 21 days. Huh. So, that... Wait, no, that's after Isla disappeared. Okay. I had an idea there about maybe maybe Isla used that Sekimeiya and that's why Akuro only traveled 21 days, but if that's already after Isla disappeared, then that can't really work. Or Isla traveled to the future, ended up somewhere near that future Sekimeiya, and traveled to the future again. Or she traveled to the past and then she traveled to the future. Something like that. What if when Isla... No, surely they check the cabinet? Isla fell into the cabinet was empty. Did they check it thoroughly? Was there a Sekimeiya in there? Because what if... No, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, she clearly traveled then. Oh god, I'm just confusing myself. I'll continue. After Kate and Sai left the lobby, Shiryu and I came across an empty cabinet in room B4 that had been set to 0 degrees. That's what reset the stored time. I'm not sure what happened exactly. Maybe Kate found the Sekimeiya and put it somewhere cold. Okay, that's a much easier explanation than I was about to come up with. But Sai saw that and removed it. The cabinet would have taken a bit to cool off, but a few minutes had passed. After that, Shiryu discovered the storeroom's movable wall and the handleless door. At the time, I was certain that secret place had been used by the culprit to escape the multiple searches we did. Wait. That secret... Oh, the secret place. Just, you know, the passage between... Well, behind the wall. Used by the culprit to escape the multiple searches we did. I don't know. That's the short answer. The long answer is, I can still guess. I think all of those answers have a certain appeal to them. You know, whenever I try to guess one of these answers, I'm trying to put myself in the mind of the writers, thinking what would be the most interesting, what would they come up with as logical solutions. I think in this case, the problem is I could imagine all of them being correct. Like, there were some questions earlier where I could definitely exclude a couple because I just thought, you know, they don't really make much sense, they're not that interesting. For this one, I think all of them have something to them. I think. But that never happened. Is not gonna be the right answer. I don't... Okay, this is actually one where I think everything is about equally likely. From a pure like perspective of I don't know. I kind of like the idea of... But it was only used to... I kind of like it was used to avoid 2 the most. You know what? Sure, why not? Okay, never mind. Yeah. Honestly, like, purely based off... I've tried to mind game too much there. Purely based off what the game has done so far, mostly it's been whenever Atsuki said, I thought something happened, and the game has then told me, you know, these options. It was mostly, but that didn't happen. I don't think it was ever used by anyone who didn't want to be seen, though. I saw a single set of fingerprints identical to the ones I saw this morning. Since the morning, no one had opened that door from the hallway. I do kind of remember that, I think. Kate had the rusty key, and it fits the keyhole of that door. He definitely knew of its existence. And immediately after that, Erina proposed that we confine ourselves. That's what led us to wait in the addict's bedroom, leaving the past Sekimeiya behind in the event room. That marked the halfway point of our imprisonment. From there, though, everything only got crazier. Despite our efforts, Sai and Acro managed to escape. I wouldn't be surprised if they left the way I imagined it, with a thought-out loop. I attempted to replicate that idea, but it didn't work. At the time, I thought of a number of reasons that could have prevented my success, but now I can think of even more. First off, at some point, Acro traveled days into the future. It's possible that even the Isla from another world traveled days into the past. That means that if I'd walked to the crystal floor, maybe I would have been involved in one of those travels. Secondly, my idea was to leave, travel to the past, unlock the door and re-enter the bedroom immediately after my departure. That meant that my future location would have been in the bedroom, so I wouldn't have been able to appear outside it in the past. Lastly, my plan entailed using the Sekimeiya we had hidden in Naomi's locker. It was the 3rd Sekimeiya, so I highly doubt it would have ever worked. After both of them left and Acro with different memories showed up, even another Isla was there. What happened outside the bedroom? I only have Acro's version. He touched the Sekimeiya Sai had hidden and went to the Wait. The fuck? This doesn't make any sense. More than 20 minutes had passed, so it was safe to step back into the kitchen. How did I not think this through? There's no way we went to January 5th. For that, we should have been in the tower 21 days before the 15th. Acro's clothes changed. Can't rule out that he might have been in the tower in the past. Ours didn't change though. I certainly wasn't there in the past, so if I traveled 21 days to the future, I should have appeared far outside the tower. The hell? That broke my entire train of thought. It was a major contradiction regarding what I'd concluded. What happened at the end of the day? 21 days before the 15th. It was November 24th. I was not in the tower at that time. I wonder what would happen if now I travel back in time to that day and go to the tower. I don't think that would explain it either. Needless to say, that won't happen. It would mean that Sai and Erina would have to be there as well. What the hell is this? How is it possible that we traveled to January 5th? Is there another way? Could anything explain this? I thought about our last minutes in the tower right before 21. What exactly had caused the travel? One of the Sekimeiya was kept cold in the event room, which means that it was likely the past Sekimeiya. Then the future Sekimeiya must have been somewhere else, and it made us travel through time. But the replicated locations don't make any sense. I had to think about everything that had happened during the last segment of the day. When I did, a possibility came to mind. Okay, now that's a lot of answers. I was already thinking when I read through the previous few sentences, and I've specifically mentioned it before in the previous episode, that specifically Isla said it's January 5th, but we don't actually know if it is. Atsuki was talking about water evaporation to confirm that, or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that was not just bullshit. Something else could have happened to the water. But let's read through these. Isla lied about the date. That I don't think is true. Because to lie, you have to, lying is a purpose decision. If you don't know something, you're not lying. So, I think we can exclude the first answer because I don't think Isla would have any reason to lie. Isla traveled from January 5th to December 15th unknowingly. Very possible. So, what I think this is establishing is that Isla was at a date that was January 5th, but then traveled back to the past to December 15th at some point, and that's where she met us with the recorder. All of us had been on the tower on November 24th. That is a very interesting proposition. If we travel to the future, your location is the location replicated from your past. If you travel to the past, your location, what happens to your location? I don't remember that. Is it just the location? Wait. In the experiments Atsuki did, when he traveled to the past, he appeared behind himself. So that means his location that got replicated, it isn't the location he was in when he touched the Sekimeiya. It's a different location. Which location is it? The location he was standing in the future. Kind of, I guess. I mean, in that case, certainly. So, but that would, no, that can't quite, would it? I can't exclude that as an option yet. We travel to the future more than once. It's possible, but I don't believe it. Because what that would say Because like they haven't been in the tower from earlier than just December 15th. Shiria has, but not everyone. In a specific world, Shiria has. Don't know which one, whatever. So, if we travel to the future more than once, that would mean you'd have to travel quite a lot of times, because you can't go more than like a few hours at a time. Because, well, the first one, like you could stack them up. But the first one would definitely only have to be a few hours, and then you can like multiply by 2 every travel. But you would still have to travel a lot. We're knocked out until January 5th. Not likely. Because that's a long time, and you'd die of dehydration. The 4th effect of the Sekimeiya was activated. Now we're getting into stuff where it's like, oh god. What are you talking about? No, surely not. I think you're not introducing another effect of the Sekimeiya at this stage. We never traveled through time. Possible? We were always on January 5th. Now that's an interesting one. But what the heck are you talking about? Because we were always on January 5th does not work. Well, it kind of plays with the same ideas as this one does. Because the thing is, we were knocked out until January 5th. In what way would that... Knocked out when? Because I think the only time they were knocked out is the sleeping gas. That's like at the beginning of the whole incident. And not everyone was knocked out during that. Kade wasn't, for example. So I don't think that's realistic at all. And we were always on January 5th. Doesn't make sense because of that, because we definitely know that they entered the tower on December 15th. So why would they have always been on January 5th? Just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think these two are the only ones that I like. I mean, saying that, if there's a reasonable explanation, I'm not saying I don't like some of the others too, but these are the only ones that I can think of that make more sense than the rest. We never traveled through time is also not the worst idea, but I think I like this one the most. The problem with it is that with the water evaporation, I'm going back to that, yes. How would the water have disappeared then? Someone tossed it away, yes, but Atsuki wouldn't believe that. Atsuki believes in water evaporation as the sole answer to everything. But that problem doesn't necessarily get solved if Isla traveled back to December 15th. Which of these answers would solve that problem? Isla lied about the date. Wouldn't. That wouldn't. That would. That also would. And most of these are, that wouldn't. That is just a random answer. That's just like whatever. That wouldn't. So that would. So these three would. So I like these ones a lot because there's just so much to theorize, and I have like some things to go off of. Whereas a lot of those more specific questions are just like, well, do you remember that one line of text? No? Well, you're not figuring it out then. I'm so tempted to click on this. But there's just no way. Well, what this would say, because I don't like them all having been in the tower on November 24th originally makes no sense. What this would say, I think, is that at some point they did travel back in time while they were in the tower to November 24th. And then they travel forward again? I don't know. I like that though. Okay, you know what? I think I've given you a rough idea of what options I think, well, I believe are likely. It doesn't really matter what I choose at the end. I want to go for this. And we'll see if I was completely off or if it was at least something I had considered. We were on December 15th. The core of Suriba should confirm that. Then, given Isla's words and the evaporated water, of course he brings that back up, the evaporated water, I'm certain that we arrived on January 5th. By simply thinking about what happened during the last stretch, an obvious problem immediately comes up. We shouldn't have been able to travel 21 days through time. A bit after 2030, we found the part of Sekimeiya in the water tank, and we left it in a cold cabinet. Then we found Shiria in a hallway A crystal room. I don't know who she really was, but she convinced me to wait in the lobby for the shutter to open. Something I felt iffy about occurred then. Erina left saying she was going to search for Sai. Later when she came back, it sounded like she'd traveled through time. The Sekimeiya wasn't in the cabinet. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like everyone was lying to me. I searched hallway A by myself and found a Sekimeiya in a security room. What's strange is that the Sekimeiya was very hot. It didn't make sense for Erina to have recently used it. That makes me think that it wasn't the same Sekimeiya that had just disappeared from the cabinet. After I found the Sekimeiya in a water tank, something about Sai also seemed off. We still haven't searched the whole floor. I'll go leave the Sekimeiya in the event room and we won't move it again. There's nothing else to find, is there? Do you seriously believe Shiria will be here? We've already found the Sekimeiya. I stared at Sai's eyes a little disconcerted. His voice sounded noticeably more nervous and tense than it had recently. Is there something else to find here? What would that be? He knew there was something left to be found. Sekimeiya in the security room. He didn't care that we'd found one, but he was worried we would find a second one. What's most important is that after I found it in the security room, I put it in the cabinet. But mere minutes later, we supposedly traveled to January 5th. This seems impossible. One Sekimeiya had just been taken out of the cabinet, while the other one had just been left inside. There was no time to build up the necessary energy to travel 21 days through time. If the future Sekimeiya was put in a hot place during those minutes, it could have gathered enough energy. However, that wouldn't explain the replicated location. I wasn't in the tower on November 24th. In other words, there is an answer that explains both mysteries at once. Okay, now after having listened to it, I want to go back to it. So Isla lied about the date. I mean, I don't think so. Isla traveled from January 5th to December 15th unknowingly. Maybe? Let me read for the rest. All of us have been in the tower on November 24th. No. We traveled to the future more than once. No. We were knocked out until January 5th. No. The fourth effect of the Sekimeiya was activated. We never traveled through time. Doesn't explain the water. We were always on January 5th. Doesn't explain the water. So it kind of... None of it explains it really. So I want to see where he's going. Could it really be what I'm imagining? Before the exit unlocked, the future Sekimeiya was activated. I believe the location where that happened is a very important detail. Where was the future Sekimeiya activated? Where was it? Which one was that though? I don't think he specifies. No. You found the Sekimeiya in the security room. And in a water tank. Okay, Atsuki put it in the put it in a cabinet, the one he found in the security room. Where did the other one go? Did he leave it in a water tank? Did he carry it with him? What did he do with that? Future Sekimeiya was activated. I believe the location where that happened is a very important detail. I can even select the A and the B rooms. Location where that happened. We were in the lobby, right? So it wouldn't have been there. The mechanical room. I don't think anyone was there. Where was the future Sekimeiya activated? What was it? Sai, Shiraya, Erina, who were around? Possibly. The future Sekimeiya. The location of it. I don't know. What would be interesting? The A or the B rooms? The cleaning room, does that make any sense? The staff room, I don't think they'd be much, like, I don't think they have much to do with anything. What about A1? Because it's the closest to where Atsuki was sitting in the lobby. Like, B2 and the security room are also kind of near, but that is definitely the closest. That's kind of the reason why I want to go with that. The mechanical room. But no one was there. Was there? Was there anyone who was there? It was in the mechanical room. That's where the future Sekimeiya was at 20. I like, at least, I'm happy that I got the thought process correct. I got the thought process correct that it had to be somewhere close to Atsuki. I just didn't think there was anyone there at that time. That's where the future Sekimeiya was at 9 PM. And it was Erina who activated it. She was in the mechanical room when the lights went off. Was she? I don't remember that. If I'd remembered that, I probably would have gotten that right. She still wanted to go to the past. She never stopped saying that. It was her last chance to do so. Before then, she must have used the Sekimeiya we'd left in the cabinet. However, when she came back to the lobby and asked us the time, she'd gone to the future instead. Based on what happened later, that must have been the future Sekimeiya. Even so, late into the day, Sai was still trying to keep the Sekimeiya hidden. He knew one was in the security room, and when Erina traveled to the future, it was his chance to take care of the other. Erina came back, asking for the time. That's when we went to the event room and saw the empty cabinet. I noticed a brief instant in which Erina's expression showed surprise. She was still in hallway B, staring at her left. Did you see something? Uh-huh. I walked up to her, but I found nothing that stood out in the hallway. What she saw was Sai going through the mechanical room. That's where he left the future Sekimeiya. Or do we use these last minutes to find Sai and the Sekimeiya? If this is his doing, he must have something in mind, and as much as I want to get out, I'm not fond of the idea of letting him do as he pleases. What do you mean she saw Sai going through the mechanical room? How can you go through the mechanical room? It's one room that has one exit. You can't go through the mechanical room. You can go to the mechanical room. I'm not quite... And how would Erina see that? Because, like, if you look at the map... like, the mechanical room is here. Okay. If she's in hallway B, she's looking through the door, if that door is open. Behind the lobby kind of desk, the reception desk, you can go to the mechanical room. She could have feasibly seen that. It's still, it's not through the mechanical room. Like, she can't see that. Like, okay, you can go through a room in the sense that you're looking through it, but she can't have seen that. She can only have seen him go to it. Okay, enough grammatical stuff. Yes, maybe we should search for him. Search complete. You all did an amazing job this time. But that's not all. Before Erina noticed the mechanical room had been opened, That makes me think Sai was down there and came out when we went to the event room. He knew I'd purposely left the cabinet unlocked. If he later hid the Sekimeiya in the mechanical room, he was probably scoping it out ahead of time. After that, Sai didn't waver as I looked through hallway A. He knew I would find one Sekimeiya, but not the one he'd just hidden. Once I put the past Sekimeiya in the cabinet, all of us, including Shirya, went back to the lobby and kept waiting where we'd been before. Erna didn't speak once. She knew the Sekimeiya Sai had hidden was still under us, and she was waiting for it to gather energy. Before the exit unlocked, she disappeared from beside us. She went down to activate the Sekimeiya one final time. Did no one notice that? I feel like I remember at some stage someone going, hey, where did Erina go? Or something like that. But how the fuck did... Sorry. How did no one notice that? Okay, sure. And she did. The ceiling of the mechanical room is very low, so the range encompassed us too. The people sitting right above it. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just like... That's not an answer I would ever come to, because I don't think it's realistic to not notice that she would have gone to the mechanical room. I would have excluded that from the possibilities. Why did we go to January 5th though? If that was the case, the range should have picked up everyone who'd been waiting outside the tower. Somehow Shirya knew the travel would occur, and she ran away from us to avoid being involved. But why? Why 21 days into the future? At first glance, it seems that Erina activating the Sekimeiya would never result in that. However, I think I can tell what the answer is by simply running through what would have happened after she touched it. Sai frequently told us the current time. When Erina made us travel to the future, the Sekimeiya had gathered power for about 15 minutes. At that point, we already knew that would result in roughly 20 minutes traveled. So we traveled 20 minutes to the future. What would the locations have been? From 20 minutes in the past, and they were still sitting there 20 minutes in the past, probably. Oh, never mind. Sai was in the mechanical room. Okay, 20 minutes before the travel, Sai was in the mechanical room while Erin and I were in the lobby, sitting in the same spot. I don't have like a full memory of how long each event took. What occurred relied on Sai's location upon appearing. By that point, I'd also learned that 15 minutes stored resulted in 5 minutes of the Sekimeiya's recovery phase. After Erina touched the Sekimeiya, it spent 5 minutes off, and then gathered energy for 15 more minutes until we appeared. When we appeared, Sai was in the mechanical room, where he would hide the Sekimeiya. So the instant we appeared, he activated it again. I'm not sure how that happened fluidly, but I can think of a couple things that make a lot of sense. Immediately we went 20 more minutes to the future, and when we appeared, the Sekimeiya had gathered energy for another 15 minutes. That time, the locations were from the time Erina had touched the Sekimeiya. In other words, she was in the mechanical room, while Sai and I were in the lobby. So, we went 20 more minutes to the future. It's incredibly unlikely that the time matched up exactly and perfectly replicated the instant in which we had appeared 20 minutes before. However, it's possible that location was what we defaulted to, as it was the closest location in which we existed. That's all I can really assume there. Again, when we appeared, it was Erina who instantly reactivated the Sekimeiya. This created a never-ending chain of 20 minutes jumping forward. Yeah, but that's where my problem with this comes in. The game specifically says it's a never-ending chain. Where does it end? Because it has to end if they stop at January 5th. Only 2 locations alternated, the one in which Sai was in the mechanical room and the one in which Erina was. Meanwhile, I was in the lobby regardless. This explains why I didn't see the sudden instant flashing they talked about. For some reason, on January 5th, the tower was empty. Kate told us once that the lights turn off every night and are manually turned on in the morning. So if nobody was in the tower in the morning, the lights would have remained off. However, before all the lights turned off permanently, every 20 minutes Sai and Erina alternated between being in the lobby and in the mechanical room. Although it lasted an instant each time, due to the darkness in the mechanical room and the light in the lobby, they perceived the flashing light. Okay. Then, on January 5th, the chain stopped. I don't know why, but we broke free of it. Yeah, that I don't know why is my problem with it. But we broke free of it. effectively traveling 21 days into the future. And the final location was from when Erina was in the mechanical room, which is why it didn't feel like we changed places. And since in the previous location she would have appeared and activated the Sekimeiya instantly, that must mean that it overlapped with part of her body upon arriving. That must be why when the chain ended she started bleeding. The tip of her finger was missing. Did all that really happen and none of us realized it? It explained things, but I still had a few doubts. Why had the tower been empty on January 5th? Why had the chain not gone on infinitely? This must mean that Akira really was in the tower on November 24th. His hair was longer and different color. He traveled to the future while we were in the attic, but there's something I'm confused about. If I'm right, and the version of Isla who is there ended up being the friend, she likely traveled before we left the bedroom. We weren't there for too long of a time though, and we'd left the past Sekimeiya in the cabinet. Akira traveled to the future after he and Sai escaped, but since Isla was still there, she must have traveled to the past afterward. Would there have been enough time to store the needed energy to go so far back? The reason she was able to go many days back was